20 years of marriage, and my husband had kept a mistress for 15 to force me to give up my place. He only gave me 1,000 yuan a month to live on. I stubbornly raised our 2 sons alone just to make sure they didn't get their happy ending. In the end, I died from overwork. But when I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day we first fought over divorce. Both of my sons stood in front of me and said they wanted to live with their father. I knew instantly they were reborn. 2. Hello everyone. Welcome to Shelter Logs. Click the subscribe button and you can listen to wonderful novels every day. The story is about to begin. Chapter 1. When I opened my eyes again, everything was black for a moment before gradually becoming clear. The mess in front of me stunned me for a good 10 seconds before I realized where I was. Isn't this the apartment Luis and I bought when we first got married? Later, he secretly sold this place and kicked me and our 2 sons out, forcing us to rent a shabby unit in an old urban village. We lived there for over 10 years. I touched the wound on my forehead, trying to recall what day it was. In my past life. Today was the day I first found out Luis was cheating. I lost control and fought with him. He shoved me and I hit my forehead on the corner of the coffee table, passing out cold. I was lucky to survive. When I woke up and demanded a divorce, his entire extended family swarmed in to persuade me to stay. Come on. Every marriage goes through this. They said, my sister wanted to come from out of town to pick me up and take me home. You'll always have a place with us, she said. But I was angry. I insisted on keeping my rightful place as the legal wife and refused to let that scumbag get what he wanted. Only my stubbornness didn't stop them from living a good life. Louise, utterly shameless, sold the house behind my back, moved to another city with the other woman, and even had a child with her. He returned to our hometown only every few years, getting lightly scolded at most. After his mother passed away, he stopped caring altogether. The happier their life became, the more determined I was to cling to my place and become the biggest thorn in their side. I raised our 2 sons alone until they became adults and then died young from overwork. In my final year, while I lay in the hospital, Luis spent over 200,000 yuan to send his elementary school-aged illegitimate son overseas to study, yet refused to pay my son's college expenses. Remembering all this, I got up from the floor and slowly walked over to the mirror. Seeing the wound on my forehead made me smile. Not enough. I scanned the room, picked up a glass cup nearby, and smashed it against the wound again. Watching fresh blood flow, I finally smiled with satisfaction. With my hair soaked in blood, I dashed out of the house, panicked and helpless. This time, I won't foolishly waste my life in that burning pit. As soon as I left, I ran into an auntie from the neighborhood. As soon as I saw her, I cried out in panic. Help! Help! My husband is trying to kill me. She wasn't the type to back down. What? She bellowed, pulling me into her arms. Don't worry. He wouldn't dare. I'm calling the police right now. Tell me what happened. Seeing the mix of concern and juicy curiosity on her face, I threw myself into her arms and cried harder, careful not to let her see the smirk hiding at the corners of my mouth. I can't go on anymore. That bastard cheated on me and now wants me to give up my place for that woman or else he'll kill me. I gave him 2 sons. Served him for years. Never heard a kind word all year. And now he wants to buy a house for his mistress. Tears and blood mixed across my face. I beat my chest and stomped my feet, looking as pitiful as could be. And I had no doubt this auntie would spread the story even more dramatically than I told it. The police arrived quickly. My eyes lit up, and I clutched the officer's hand, wailing again. Comrade, you have to help me. The female officer took me to get my wounds treated briefly, then brought me back to the station to file a report. Not long after, Louise, who had been summoned, showed up in the station lobby with a gloomy face. As soon as he saw the police, he immediately put on a flattering smile. Officer, I'm really sorry. It was just a fight between husband and wife. Nothing serious. Sorry for troubling you. The young female officer handling my report slammed the table in anger. A fight or domestic violence? You know very well which one it was. Chapter 2. As for him, he was smug and fearless. I knew well that in domestic disputes, mediation was always the priority. Luis came out after giving his statement, nodding and bowing. All smiles. All right. All right. I'll change. I'll definitely change. You're right to teach me. But as soon as he turned to face me, his expression flipped full of malice. I curled my lips into a smile and fainted dramatically in front of everyone. At the hospital, I completed a checkup. Thanks to my superb acting, I obtained a diagnosis of suspected brainstem injury. I knew then divorce was in the bag. Even if Louise was furious now, he wouldn't dare lay a hand on me. We returned home in peace. What awaited me next was the classic trial by in-laws. Around 100 p.m. the next day, Louis's entire family showed up. The moment they stepped in, his sister saw the bowl in my hand and immediately scowled. Fiona, my brother works so hard to support you. And all you do is cook and clean. We came all this way and didn't even get a bite to eat or a glass of water. They used to gaslight me like this in my previous life, too. Before I discovered Louis's betrayal, he did give me 3,000 yuan a month for household expenses. That 3,000 covered everything. The two boys' costs, food, electricity, gas, social obligations, weddings, and funerals. I had to pinch every penny. But it was barely enough to get by. We weren't living in poverty. Back then, I believed the narrative that everything in the household was supported by Louise. But now I realize from appliances to grains, I was the one hustling early mornings for discount deals. If I hadn't managed the household so carefully with Louise smoking 50 yuan a pack cigarettes, 3,000 wouldn't have lasted a week and not a single cent was spent on me. I slurped the last few noodles and clanked my bowl and chopsticks down. Wiping my mouth, I said, "Aunt, you came without a heads up. How was I supposed to cook anything?" I nudged my chin toward the trash can. "Can't even offer you water. Louise smashed everything yesterday. The injury on my head, courtesy of a flying glass. Big sis-in-law. I get 3,000 yuan a month to run this whole household. Last year when you had your second baby, I gave 1,200 for a gift. For birthdays. When I was hospitalized. You never returned a favor. You give it back now. I'll go buy groceries for you guys." She was so choked up. She turned her back to me after playing the bad cop. Louis's mom came to play the good one, frowning in concern. "AI. What couple doesn't argue? Sure. It was wrong of Louis to hit you. But you can't call the police over household matters. In my last life, she couldn't control the mistress. So, she took it out on me. The so-called soft target. She gaslight-diked me with talk like, 'We're all on your side. Just wait it out and that woman will end up with nothing.'" I let out a cold laugh. Not only did I speak up this time, I made sure people came to see it. Noisy footsteps echoed in the hallway. The neighborhood auntie had arrived with her gossip gang. "This house right here, that bastard cheated and hit his wife. Don't know what kind of mother raised a man like that." Louis's mom's expression darkened on the spot. I held up yesterday's injury report. Pictures of bruises and cuts. Gruesome and undeniable. Don't bother trying to talk me down. I'm divorcing him if I don't. I'm suing him. Louise exploded. "Fine, let's divorce. I've been dying to get away from you anyway." But his mother didn't want the divorce. She knew full well her son was almost 30. Owned nothing but a house that drained the family's savings. And he'd never find another fool like me who worked herself to death without complaint. Chapter 3. I want to live with Grandma. Me? Too. I want to live with Dad and Grandma. I didn't even notice when the boys appeared at the door. The three of us locked eyes. In a flash, it clicked. I knew it. My sons had been reborn. Too. In the last life. I struggled to raise them alone. Even with 3 jobs day and night. I couldn't cover their expenses, while other kids traveled on school breaks. Mine could only work part-time by their teens when they were still growing. Meat was scarce. They'd eat cheap cookies late at night and fill their bellies with water to save off hunger. In high school, a kind teacher tried to tutor them privately. But we couldn't afford it. So, even though they were top-tier students, they ended up at mediocre colleges. And when they got sick, we could barely afford cold medicine. One thing after another. How could they not resent it? Louis's mom, who had been hesitant, suddenly lit up. My 2 grandsons. Grandma didn't love you for nothing. Divorce. You must divorce him. She was humiliated earlier by neighbors. Now the boys' support gave her a sense of pride again. Her voice firm as a gavel. Louise smirked at me smugly as if to say, "See? Once you leave me, you'll have nothing. Not even your sons." I nearly laughed out loud. He still didn't understand how expensive raising kids was. The house wasn't under my name. I paid for the renovations, and when it came time to divide assets, Louise's mom said smugly, "This house is ours. We'll give you 30,000 yuan at most. Take it or leave it, or take the furniture." The furniture? 10-year-old junk. And since my family lived far away, they thought I wouldn't take anything. They underestimated me. I called the neighborhood aunties. Whatever they liked. They took what no one wanted. I called the recycling man, for Louise watched the house empty piece by piece. His face green with rage. "Fiona. You're heartless." I rolled my eyes. "Leaving my dowry for you and your mistress. Now that would be heartless." Once I moved out, the other woman could finally move in. As soon as the divorce certificate was finalized, Louise set a wedding date. On their wedding day, my sister came from out of town. She lit firecrackers and beat drums downstairs early in the morning. The neighbors all knew Louise was remarrying. No one even blinked. My sister handed out candy to everyone she met, grinning brighter than a blooming flower. People who didn't know better thought she was the one getting married. Passers-by, confused but amused, took candy and said, "Is there good news at home?" "Congratulations." She beamed and stuffed candy into their hands. "There is good news. My sister got divorced." Then she pointed up, signaling them to look. She had hung a banner over the entrance that read, "Celebrating my sister's divorce from a heartless man. Congratulations to the ex-brother on his second marriage." The new bride insisted on a grand entrance, riding a flower sedan through the main gate, only to crash right into the welcoming parade my sister had arranged. Seeing her approach, my sister turned around and waved her hand. "Strike up the band. Let's welcome the new bride properly." Everyone watching immediately understood what was happening, with help from the neighborhood aunties explaining the whole story. The crowd was fully entertained. The bride was supposed to disembark and step over a fire basin, as tradition goes. But Gloria refused to show her face from inside the sedan. Her voice came out, trembling with sobs. Let's go. Chapter 4. Louise, the star of the day, was stabbed by every gaze and humiliated by all the pointing fingers. My 2 sons hugged their grandma's waist and frowned. "Grandma, Mom is being too much. How could she do this?" From across the street, I sat in my sister's car, watching it all unfold, my nose stinging with emotion. At that moment, I remembered the day before my wedding in my past life, when my sister came into my room holding my hand with worry on her face. She said, "Fiona, you were such a good kid. Why are you being so stubborn now? Insisting on marrying far away? If something happens, your family won't be able to help you." Back then, I didn't understand her sadness. Now I know only blood ties are truly unbreakable. Although I left, I had made arrangements. My aunts agreed to watch over my 2 sons and report back if anything went wrong. Barely a few days had passed before my aunt came gossiping again. "Fiona, that new wife Louise married. She's not easy to deal with. Says women should be pampered, not treated like maids. Louise has to cook for her every night now. If he comes home late, they just eat out." My aunt was outraged, but I was delighted. Louise's new wife, Gloria, Had only a high school diploma and started working young. She's just 21 with limited options in her circle. She thought a man with a house like Louise was a great catch and married him eagerly. She's not particularly beautiful. But she's young and knows how to act coy. Louise was willing to spoil and spend on her. But didn't think about whether he could afford it. He might cook for a week. But no way he could last a month. Especially since when I was there. He never had to lift a finger. How could he possibly tolerate this now? Sure enough. My aunt smugly told me Louise had been grocery shopping daily. He didn't know you had to get up early to grab the good stuff or wait around for the cheap deals. But he was enjoying himself. Posting updates on social media. There they were, shopping at the supermarket. Snacks, premium fruits. And tiny organic veggies wrapped in plastic wrap. Everything looked blissful and picture perfect. But I knew it wouldn't last. Still. I didn't expect their first fight to come so quickly. Their first argument. It came through my son's smartwatch call left open in the living room just for me to hear. How much can groceries cost? I give you $4,000 a month. Isn't that enough? Can't you cut down on snacks? You didn't eat the snacks. Now you're blaming me. Didn't you say you treat me like a queen forever? I should have married someone my own age. Gloria started crying. Louise softened immediately and lowered his voice to comfort her. All right. All right. We ate out too much this month. Next month we'll cook at home. You buy the groceries. I'll do the cooking. Okay. And just like that. They made up again. On the other end of the line. I laughed coldly. Two people who've never been crushed by the grind of daily life. Life itself will teach them a lesson. Chapter 5. Peace didn't last long enough. Chaos returned to Louis's household. The money Louise gave Gloria was meant to cover the whole family's expenses. But she thought the two kids just needed a week's allowance since they ate and lived at school. What she didn't know was that boarding school kids often brought back snacks, fruit, and milk on Sundays. Extra food to enjoy during the week. My two sons, of course, never mentioned it to her or bothered Louise. They simply lowered their heads in silence when classmates asked why they never brought snacks or fruit. When the classmates told their parents that the boys had to share other snacks, the adults understood the situation immediately. My aunt's out walking with my sons. Ran into Louise and half joked, half scolded Louise. They say with a stepmother comes a stepfather too. If it's too much, maybe just let the kids live with their mother. After another round of nagging, Louise was furious, tired of cooking. He snapped at Gloria and dumped all the housework on her. His excuse? Since the money wasn't enough, he'd just work more overtime. Gloria would have to handle everything at home. Then came the classic brainwashing. Look at your friends still working factory jobs. Living in dorms or rented places. None of them have it as good as you. You live in a big county house. Don't have to wake up early. Just cook and relax. This family really mastered the art of emotional manipulation. Used to do it to me. Now it's Gloria's turn. At the end of the day, they're all selfish and only love themselves. Soon it was New Year's Eve. In my past life, Gloria's obsession had always been being officially brought home by Louis and accepted by his mom, not just being his nameless mistress. Now she had her wish and was officially the daughter-in-law. She truly felt like part of the family, which made her more susceptible to their brainwashing. That night, Louise video called me. I answered. On screen were my two sons, clearly reluctant to be there. Before I could speak, my mother-in-law chimed in cheerfully. Oh, these boys. It's only proper to wish their mother a happy new year. They're just shy. Fiona. Don't take it personally. Louise played along, acting the part. Yes. Say Happy New Year to your mom. I'll give you a big red envelope after. Looking at Louise and his smug family on the phone screen, I couldn't help but laugh. My sons were amazing actors. The more distant my kids were from me, the more they blended into Louis's family, and the more chaos they could stir up from within. My sons reluctantly said Happy New Year to me before quickly turning their faces away. Louis's family, however, took pride in this. smiling cheerfully as they bid me farewell. I heard Louise in the background. "Here. Boys. 200 each." I smiled just as sweetly and hung up the phone. My mother gave me a disgusted look from across the table, curling her lip. Ungrateful brats. All those years of love wasted. I smiled and picked up a piece of meat for her, gently comforting her. "It's all right, Mom. They'll understand when they're older." Then I casually asked, "Is Uncle Nestor starting up a factory? Should I go help?" My mother was surprised. "How did you know?" Of course, I knew. In my past life, Mom had asked me the same thing, whether I wanted to make a little extra money. To be honest, the pay was decent, calculated monthly. It was even more than Luis earned. But Luis didn't want me to work. He said I should stay home and focus on housework. So I gave up the opportunity. Chapter 6. Unexpectedly, Uncle Netter's factory flourished later on. It grew bigger and bigger. And those early employees who stuck through the tough days all received shares. Every year, they got tens of thousands in dividends with their own income. Those housewives stood tall and proud at home. Meanwhile, I endured Louis's constant nagging. "If only you had gone out to work back then. You'd have shares, too. Things wouldn't be so tight now." And after he kicked me out, trying to live on just 1,000 yuan a month, my regret only deepened. Mom hesitated, saying, "Uncle Nestor did ask. But I think it's too tiring. There aren't many workers. Everyone has to do the job of 2 people. It's okay, Mom. I can handle it. I want to earn money to take care of you in your old age." I cut her off with a smile. Compared to the bitter life of my previous life, now that I'm away from Louise, without kids to care for, just earning money for myself, honestly, it feels amazing. At the start of the year, I returned to Louis's city and began working. Uncle Netter laughed, saying, "I worked like someone who had been starving for days." I said nothing and just smiled because he wasn't wrong. If I had seized this opportunity and earned my own income in my past life, things wouldn't have turned out so hard. Now that I've gotten it back, I treasure it more than ever. Time flew by, and my 2 children were now in the 9th grade. That year, Louis's mother fell ill in my previous life. It was also around this point that Luis and I began living apart. By this point, Luis and Gloria didn't even bother hiding their relationship from me anymore. Bold enough to video chat right in the house. I was juggling taking care of the house and looking after his mother at the hospital when I finally snapped. I broke all ties with Luis. And not long after, he sold the house without asking and threw me and my son out. Now it was Gloria's turn to face it all. After nearly a year, the pampered girl who once enjoyed others supporting her had been worn down by life into a resentful housewife. Tight finances, a passive-aggressive stepson, and a husband who acted like a guest at home. None of this was the married life she had imagined. Now that Louis's mother had fallen ill, even if Gloria was unwilling, she had no choice but to serve at her bedside. Living in the same room with someone she disliked only bred more conflict. That's when the mother-in-law remembered how good I had been. She asked Louise to bring me back to take care of her for a few days. I was amazed by their shamelessness, but still smiled and agreed. After all, we were once family. Helping during tough times is the right thing to do. A year apart had done me well. I'd been eating well, relaxing, and my complexion glowed. I looked nothing like the woman in his memory, now so poised and reasonable. Even Luis looked at me differently. "Fiona. I'm starting to regret it." I smiled as I saw him out. Then wiped the spot where he touched me with a disinfectant wipe. That man brings misfortune to anyone he's with. Pure bad luck. I brought my thermos to the hospital ward. His mother was overjoyed, treating me like her own daughter. "Oh, Fiona. Come in. Come sit." When I laid out the soup and nutritious meals I had prepared, the patients in the room were full of envy. "Oh my. This must be your daughter. See? Your own child always treats you best. Much better than that daughter-in-law from the other day." I smiled and said nothing. Louis's mother looked a little embarrassed. I gave her an out. I still call you Mom. Don't I? Chapter 7. That whole afternoon, Luis's mother couldn't stop complaining to me about how unsatisfactory Gloria was. How miserable life at home had become. And how much better things were when I was around. She's still young. Maybe in a few years, she'll know how to do things. Humans are just pathetic. They never appreciate what they have until they've lost it and found a comparison. But deep down, they're still utterly selfish. Luis's entire family was cut from the same cloth. When Luis and Gloria were fooling around outside, he liked her youth and liveless. His mother, loving her son more than anything, tolerated it, though grudgingly. Now that Gloria had officially entered the household, and they realized she offered no actual benefit, no value, they grew to despise her. When I was about to leave, Luis's mom clutched my hand in regret. I should never have agreed to let you two separate. Gloria had just enjoyed a couple of carefree days when my son told her I was back and taking care of Grandma. She snapped instantly. My son texted me to leave right away. I quietly exited the hospital room and hid nearby to observe. Soon Gloria stormed in angrily. I heard a loud crash. She must have knocked over the thermos I left on the table. I take care of your whole family. And now you regret it. Think Fiona's better? Let me tell you. No way. More crashing and slamming followed. The crowd of onlookers got quite the show. Later that day, Luis texted me asking if I'd consider getting back together for the kids. The truth is, I do plan to reconcile. Just not yet. Luis's mother had completely lost face in the hospital and couldn't stay any longer. So she had to transfer to another hospital. Another expense. Gloria obviously wasn't going to take care of her again. And I certainly wouldn't go either. Just to avoid any suspicion at that point. Only her 2 grandsons would come by after school to keep her company for a while. Casually, I brought up the topic of needing tutoring at school. How could she possibly say no? But Gloria was now in charge of the household money. And she refused without hesitation, unwilling to go along with Luis's mom's wishes. In Luis's eyes, she now disrespected his mother and mistreated his sons. Whatever affection he had left for her was completely gone to push her into a divorce. Luis stopped giving her money for living expenses and still constantly yelled and hit her. I checked the timing. It was about time I went to talk to her. In the cafe, Gloria sat across from me. She was nothing like the girl I met last year. Her hair was tied back in a low ponytail. But a few strands had fallen across her forehead, clearly tied in a hurry. What stood out most was the dark circles under her eyes and the lifeless look in them. She didn't look like a girl in her early 20s at all. But someone aged 10 years overnight. I saw the hostility in her eyes and gave a calm smile. We are the same. You know, we were both deceived by Luis. You've seen it now. Haven't you? What he says and what he does are 2 completely different things. Don't think I came here to gloat. Do you think I still care about that hellhole of a family? The only reason I stay involved is because my sons are still there. That's my life now. You're only 22. It's not too late to turn back. Your life is still yours. You thought you married for love. And now if you get pregnant, things will only get worse. Whether you divorce or not. That house of his gets split 3 ways. How much do you think your child will get? Wasting your whole life on this? Totally not worth it in my previous life. This was exactly the time when she got pregnant. If she gave birth to that child, she would have ended up fighting me for the inheritance. Chapter 8. Gloria finally came to her senses. She initiated the divorce herself. She came into this marriage with nothing. So naturally. She left with nothing. She aborted the baby and asked Luis for 30,000 yuan in emotional damages. I nodded. That's about the going rate. That's what a woman discarded by Luis is worth. As a fellow woman, I felt a pain of sympathy seeing Gloria's pale and fragile figure. Wasting her youth and ruining her health for that family, it just wasn't worth it. After the divorce, Luis immediately asked to remarry. I refused. I only agreed to return to the household. But not to remarry. To show sincerity, Luis agreed. For now, he did all the shopping, cooking, and cleaning. I focused on work and taking care of our sons. The tutoring classes my sons couldn't afford in my past life. I now had the means to send them. Even if they resisted what they lacked then, I would double now. I spent money on them without asking Louise for a cent. His money, whether for groceries or bills, I didn't ask. Sometimes I even stocked the fridge myself. Now he was eager to hand over the money to me. I still refused. This marriage and managing the household finances were like meat dangled in front of him. He'd chase it while it remained out of reach. But once he got it, he'd slack off again. Human nature can be disgusting. And Louise was the worst of it. Since her last illness, Louis's mother's health had deteriorated. She spent half the month bedridden. She didn't have long left. I took better care of her than Louise did. She kept hoping Louise and I would remarry soon. Mom, your health is the most important. Let's go to the hospital for a checkup. Okay. That checkup revealed mid to late stage lung cancer. Chemotherapy would cost hundreds of thousands with no guaranteed result. Conservative treatment. She'd be lucky to make it through the year. I asked about private insurance and they told me clearly no coverage for pre-existing conditions. I ran around trying to help her and everyone saw it. An auntie from the neighborhood pulled me aside and asked, Fiona, after all they've done to you, how could you go back to that fire pit? What's wrong with your head? I just smiled and didn't answer. How could they know that the seemingly foolish woman who gave her all to the in-laws who wronged her was plotting revenge? Even Louise was moved. At dinner, his face full of regret, he said, Fiona, I was a fool before. I didn't see that only you truly cared about me. Let's live well together. Just the four of us. Okay? He even teared up mid-sentence. I watched his crocodile tears, met my son's eyes, and felt nothing. We all knew he wasn't truly sorry. He was scared. Scared we'd leave him behind. Scared that I, who could now earn money, would do just fine without him. But my sons and I had lived this life twice. We'd crawled out of hell. How could we be swayed by a few fake tears? Good people get bullied. Gentle horses get ridden to death. Louis's mother passed away. Louis and I registered for remarriage. That night, he held me as he sobbed and apologized. I didn't care to listen. I tolerated his fake tears and gently patted his back. Louise, I'm so scared now that Mom's gone. It all happened so suddenly. We've been through so much. It's not easy finally having a stable home. If something unexpected happens, illness or worse, what if we can't afford treatment? Let's buy some insurance, shall we? Chapter 9. He readily agreed. That weekend, we went to the insurance company and purchased a high-value life policy. Watching Louise finally sign his name on the contract, I could finally breathe easy. From then on, all that was left was to wait. According to what my sons had told me, just before their university term started, they chose to take a long-distance coach to save money. But the bus was caught in a chain reaction accident and plunged off a cliff. No survivors in this life. With all the money I poured into private tutoring, both of my sons made it into top universities, redeeming the regret of my previous life. I took my sons ahead of time and lured Louise onto that fateful bus under the pretense of a family trip. Hey Louise, I got your ticket already. Hurry up. Our son got into university. This is his only wish. You dare say no? This is the fastest option left. Sleep on the bus. You'll arrive tomorrow. If I don't see you tomorrow, you'll regret it. I promise. The next day, the three of us sat in front of the TV, waiting. When the news finally aired, we cried tears of joy, clinging to one another, wiping away the tears. We looked outside. It was a clear blue sky. After Louis's death, I went to claim the massive insurance payout. Everything was clean. No one could find any fault. Later, when the list of victims was released, his sister finally learned the news from the media. She immediately barged in, trying to kick me and my sons out of the house, yelling that it belonged to her brother. Her voice was so loud that it brought out all the neighbors. After hearing her rant, a young woman rolled her eyes and snapped. Lady, do you even know the law? They're the legal first heirs. You try to kick them out and they can sue you for unlawful occupation. Oh. Yeah. I remember her when Louise divorced Fiona and brought that other woman back. Wasn't she also there? TSK. I knew this family was no good. Kicking out the woman who raised her 2 kids. Shameless. I stood in the doorway, smiling silently at her with so many people chiming in. She couldn't even lift her head in shame. In the end, she threw herself on the floor and held like a mad woman. My life is so bitter. My poor mother raised my brother and now he's dead and left everything to this evil witch. Mom, take me with you. The police arrived and ended the circus to avoid any further trouble. I sold the house at a low price and left with the money. 4 years later, my son graduated from a top university and got a job at a major tech firm. Thanks to my early investment in Uncle Nestor's factory, I now receive substantial annual dividends. We have a bright future ahead.